So I hope you took the time to go through the synergy exercise and look at its results. When I do this exercise in the classroom, it's interesting to see the effects on students and adults. They'll always say, I won't, and how they look at them. I don't give the results until the end after they've completed their exercise. One of the reasons I don't is it's funny how people will start to trying to manipulate their results because they want to be a banana instead of an orange or something like that. So it's just an interesting exercise. When you look at the synergy exercise results, hopefully you saw yourself in the results, and maybe you could also see that when you look at different types of people, knowing that others are different than you can see how they learn best and what their natural abilities include. You can learn about yourself, where do you have some trouble, and as you learn about others and where they might have trouble, hopefully you can come alongside and really support learning these things or being able to value the difference between the two of you. Studies of the left and right brain show us that at least some differences are actually built into our nature. Since some of our most important differences are part of our physical makeup, these built-in differences were discovered through research begun in the 30s by doctors studying epilepsy. They severed their patient's corpus callosum, I can't say that, which is the mass of fibers that connects two sides of the brain. Many of the patient's seizures stopped, but the surgery, which essentially cuts their brain in half, didn't seem to affect their abilities, their personalities, or their behavior. In the 1960s, Roger Sperry, a brain surgeon from the California Institute of Technology, wondered what the corpus callosum was for and why patients could get along without it. He seated split brain patients in front of screens that divided their visual field. Now, one side of the brain couldn't see what the other side was seeing. In one experiment, Sperry showed a question mark to the right side of the patient's brain and a dollar sign to the left side of the brain. He asked the patient to draw with his left hand what he had seen, since the right brain controls the left hand and the right brain had seen a question mark. The left hand drew a question mark. Then he asked the patient to describe what he had just drawn. And the left brain, which controls speech, described that it had been a dollar sign. So the patient drew a question mark, but he spoke about it as a dollar sign because neither side of the brain knew what the other side was doing. In some tests of the two sides of the brain showed displeasure with each other. One side would cause a lopsided scowl at the other's wrong answer. A patient complained that his sinister left hand had tied his rope to his right hand, tried to tie it and pull the trousers off his right hand as his right hand pulled them on, as if his hands were fighting. Sperry concluded that each side of the brain seemed to have its own separate and private sensations, its own perceptions, its own impulses to act. So there are profound differences within us that at times express themselves as differences. The two sides of the brain allow two different styles of thinking. The two sides of the brain have different abilities. The left side talks, the right side does not. The left side attends to things one at a time in a sequence. The right side attends to complex patterns of things at once. The left side is logical. The right side is creative. The left side is time-oriented. The right side, timeless. It makes sense that we have these opposite talents so they can work together. The two sides of the brain working in harmony create a synergy that neither side can create by itself. Management is left brain activities. For example, while leadership comes from the right, what organization is not in need of both? The science historian Thomas Kuhn shows that the great theories and models of science emerge as inspiration from the right and are then explained and applied to the talents of the left. Doctors analyze and diagnose with their left brain, but their true healing knowledge comes from the holistic sensibilities of the right brain. Even art calls both upon the creative and critical processes. Relationships that join people of different abilities and styles of thinking are opportunities for synergy. The chance of synergy is greatest when two people tend not to see things in the same way. Differences, therefore, are an opportunity for people who think differently to disagree more than people who think alike. But when personal working relationships break down over disagreements, it's not really because of the differences. It's because people involved did not understand the value of their differences or how to take advantage of them. The first step in taking advantage of our differences is to respect them, to appreciate them. Differences by themselves don't create synergy. We have to respect and appreciate our differences and choose to take advantage of that. Respecting our differences means giving people freedom to think and consider their views as deeply as we consider our own. Appreciating differences means seeing that they can serve us. Differences show us where our own vision is incomplete. They open windows into worlds other than our own. Our challenge then is to respect and appreciate differences and to learn from what they show us. We can see them as a benefit or as a threat, and we choose one or the other. We determine the quality of our relationships and even our lives. There are three levels of valuing other people, and they go as we go, and they occur as we go deeper down into the continuum, the more opportunities we're going to create for synergy to happen. The first level is value and contribution. So, what is this person bringing to the table? Then we value the difference. So we start to look and say, hey, they're different. For me to bring something to the table that I don't have, and we can really start to appreciate why it's better to have differences than everyone being the same. And finally, we value the person, regardless of contribution. We value the person and we value what they are in the world. Finally, for a final note, stereotypes can keep us from appreciating our differences. Stereotypes are limiting paradigms. They are grossly oversimplified, and most of them are just plain wrong. But they are hard to give up because whole cultures adopt them, which seems to make them more credible. Stereotypes can keep us from appreciating our differences, which in turn can keep us from gaining value from them. If we believe that men aren't artistic and sensitive, we may misjudge or overlook the opinions of those who are. Or if we believe that properly feminine, we may misjudge or overlook the opinions of those who are. Or if we believe that properly feminine women are more emotional than logical, we may discount a woman's calm and reasoned thoughts. So we need to be aware of our stereotypes because they can keep us from growing, because we can keep us from seeing, and part of that goes back to the from the very first lecture when we talked about paradigms and our maps and making sure that we are always evolving our maps to get better and more accurate information. So we've concluded the 7 habits with this final video. I hope that you keep the book. I hope that you keep these exercises. I hope that you have a lot of self-reflection that's really helped you to create some paradigms for your future. I have said this before, but I'll say it again as I close this out. There have been so many times in my life that I use these principles, and I had forgotten until I recently, a year or so ago, started using the 7 habits again in coursework. I'd forgotten how impactful that they were and how some of these very principles I value now came from these 7 habits. So I hope you appreciate them as well. Thank you.